Commander Zethra stood on the bridge of the Imperial Dreadnought Crimson Talon, watching the blue and green planet rotate slowly on the main display screen. His three eyes narrowed as he reviewed the scan data with growing satisfaction. This world would be easy, perhaps the easiest conquest in his 20-year military career. Another primitive world, his second officer reported, her voice carrying barrel like an appointment. They have barely reached their own moon. Chemical rockets, nuclear fissile fragmented into hundreds of competing nations. No unified planetary government, no energy shields, no plasma weapons. Estra clicked his mandibles in amusement. The Villian Empire had conquered 847 worlds across the galaxy. This one, listed in their database as Sol 3, would become number 848 before the week ended. The humans living there had no idea what was coming. They were children playing with fire, thinking themselves advanced because they had split the atom and touched the void of space with clumsy metal capsules. Estimated resistance level? Sthra asked, already knowing the answer. Minimal, Commander. Their most powerful weapons are fusion warheads, primitive explosive devices. Our shields can absorb thousands of such impacts without a gradation. Their military forces use projectile weapons and crude aircraft. Conquest estimate, 72 hours. 3 days to add another world to the Empire's collection. 3 days to secure the resources of an entire planet. The humans would surrender quickly once they saw the futility of resistance. They always did. There. Ender. There. Prepare the standard ultimatum, Zithra commanded. Broadcast it in all their major languages. Give them 12 hours to respond with unconditional surrender. The communications officer worked quickly, accessing the database of human languages. The Empire had been monitoring Earth's radio and television broadcasts for months. They knew everything about humanity, their wars, their divisions, their fears. This knowledge made conquest simple. The humans were not united. They would not fight together. Some would surrender immediately, hoping for favorable treatment. Others would resist uselessly, wasting lives for pride. The message went out across every frequency, every communications channel humanity possessed. Television broadcasts were interrupted. Radio signals were overridden. Internet connections displayed the same message in thousands of languages simultaneously. People of Earth, you have been located by the Valran Empire. Your world now falls within our territorial expansion zone. You will surrender all military force immediately. You will accept imperial governors and administration. Resistance is futile. Your weapons are primitive. Your defenses are inadequate. You have 12 hours to respond with total submission. Failure to comply will result in military occupation and the destruction of your major cities. This is your only warning. Across Earth, chaos erupted instantly. In Washington, D.C., the president was rushed to a secure bunker. In Moscow, military forces went to high alert. In Beijing, generals argued about response options. In London, Parliament convened an emergency session. Across the world, billions of humans looked up at the sky with fear, anger, and disbelief. Alien life existed, and it wanted to conquer them. The United Nations held an emergency meeting. Representatives from every nation gathered, their ancient differences suddenly seeming small in the face of an external threat. But unity did not come easily. Some nations wanted to negotiate. Others demanded immediate military response. A few hoped. Themissage was an elaborate hoax. We should launch our nuclear arsenal, one general argued. Show them we will not submit without a fight. That would be suicide. Another countered. They can travel between stars. Our weapons might be useless against them. We must try to communicate, Diplomat insisted. Perhaps they can be reasoned with. Perhaps they want resources we can trade. The arguments continued for hours. No consensus emerged. Humanity had faced many challenges in its story, but never one like this. It's never an enemy from the stars. With technologibian comprehension, Commander Zethra watched the chaos with satisfaction. The humans were responding exactly as confusion, fear, division. Some were already broadcasting messages of surrender. Others were positioning their primitive military forces, A few were launching nuclear missiles toward the Imperial fleet, gesture of defiance that would accomplish nothing. Intercept incoming missiles, ZTHRA ordered casually. Use the point defense systems. Make it clear how outmatched they are. The nuclear weapons humanity launched with such hope were destroyed for at least. Laser systems locked onto each missile. The moment it left the atmosphere, tracking trajectories with perfect precision. One by one, the weapons detonated harmlessly in space. Flashes off light that faded quickly in the void. Dozens of nuclear warheads enough to devastate continents eliminated like insects. On Earth, military commanders swatched in horror. Their most powerful weapons had been swatted aside without effort. The alien ships had not even moved to avoid the missiles. They had simply destroyed them casually, almost contemptuously. Prepare landing forces, Z, THRA commanded. The humans have 8 hours remaining in their ultimatum, but they have already demonstrated their intent to resist. Begin the occupation. Land forces at their major cities. Avoid excessive casualties if possible. Dead humans cannot work in the resource extraction facilities. 500 landing craft launched from the Imperial fleet. Each carried a full battalion of Valran soldiers equipped with plasma rifles, energy shields, and powered armor. They would sweep through Earth's cities, overwhelming the primitive human defenders with superior firepower. Resistance would collapse within hours. The landing craft entered Earth's atmosphere like falling stars streaking across the sky in precise formation. They targeted New York, London, Tokyo, Beijing, Paulo, Delhi, Sao Paulo, Cairo, major population centers where the show-off force would be most effective. Once these cities fell, the rest of the planet would surrender. But something was wrong. The first indication came from the sensor stations. Deep underground in places humans had never explored, strange readings appeared, energy signatures that should not exist. Power sources activating after being dormant for millions of years. Massive, impossible, incomprehensible. Commander, the science officer reported, confusion evident in his voice. I am detecting unusual activity from the planet. Significant energy buildups at multiple locations, underground, deep underground, then throd. What kind of energy, unknown commander? The readings are extraordinary. Power levels that should not be possible from a primitive civilization. And the patterns are wrong. They are not coming from human facilities. They are coming from the planet itself. Explain, Esthra demanded, feeling the first stirring of concern. I cannot, Commander. The energy sources are relocated deep in the planetary crust. Some at the core, the humans cannot have booled them. They lack the technology to excavate at such depths. Yet the power signatures are there, and they are increasing. Across Earth, seismographs went wild. Earthquake sensors detected movement, but not from natural tectonic activity. Something else was happening, something unprecedented. In California, geologists stared at their instruments in confusion. In Japan, researchers checked their data, convinced their equipment was malfunctioning. In Chile, at the Great Observatory, scientists noticed something impossible. The moon's orbit had shifted. Only by a tiny amount, barely measurable, but I've had moved. Satellites confirmed it. The moon had adjusted its position by exactly 300 meters. That is impossible, one astronomer whispered. The moon does not just move. Something would have to push it, something enormous. Deep beneath the Mariana Trench, the deepest part of Earth's oceans, something stirred. Metal surfaces that had been covered in sediment for 60 million years began to glow with blue light. Ancient mechanisms older than humanity itself activated with perfect precision. In the Sahara Desert, beneath millions of tons of sand, massive structures hummed with sudden power. Underground chambers the size of cities began lighting up, their systems running through diagnostic checks. After an impossibly long sleep beneath Antarctica's ice, under Timea frozen water, geometric patterns appeared as power grids activated. The ice above began to melt slightly, steam rising in places no human had ever visited. And at Earth's core, surrounded by molten iron under crushing pressure. Something awakened, something vast, something that had been waiting. The Villian landing. Craft were 100 kilometers from the surface when every sensor on the Imperial fleet suddenly screamed warnings. The energy signatures from Earth had increased exponentially. Power readings were off the scale. The entire planet was lighting up like a sun. "Commander," the science officer shouted, "the planet is generating energy levels equivalent to our entire fleet's reactor output. No, more than that. 10 times more. 100 times. That is impossible," Ethra roared. "They are primitives." "How?" "It is not the humans, Commander. The energy is coming from the planet itself. Geological readings are all wrong. This world's structure, it is not natural. There are manufactured components in the crust, in the mantle, at the core." "Commander, this is not a planet. This is the transmission from Earth, came simultaneously on every frequency. It was not in any human language. It was not in Veilran either. It was something older, a language the Empire's computers took precious seconds to begin translating. The voice was not organic. It was artificial, ancient, and utterly cold. Defense system active. Scanning threat level, analyzing hostile forces, calculating response parameters. 8-2000 and D8. The moon moved again. This time, not 300 meters, 300 kilometers. It shifted in its orbit with impassable speed, repositioning itself between Earth and the Imperial fleet. The rock and dust covering its surface began to fall away, revealing what lay beneath. Metal geometric patterns, weapon ports. The moon was not a moon. It was a weapons platform. Crew species identified. Human biological parameters confirmed. Transferring command authority to native population. Across Earth, 8 billion humans suddenly felt something new in their minds. A presence, a connection, information flooding into their consciousness that they had no context for understanding. Images of systems and weapons and capabilities beyond comprehension, a neural link to something vast. Commander Zethra watched in growing horror as his fleet sensors revealed the truth. Earth was not a natural planet. It was artificial, a construct. Every continent contained machinery. Every ocean concealed manufacturing facilities. The atmosphere itself was a multi-layered shield system that was only now powering up after millions of years of dormancy. They had not found a primitive world to conquer. They had found a dormant warship the size of a planet. And by invading, they had woken it up. The Valran landing craft, still descending toward Earth's surface, suddenly found them sylvester-gated by weapon systems they could not identify. The targeting locks were perfect, tracking hundreds of small craft simultaneously with impossible precision. No warnings were given, no scan chances. The first landing craft exploded in a flash of blue light. Then another, then 10 at once. Within 30 seconds, all 500 landing craft were gone, vaporized by defense systems that had activated automatically. Woo by battalions. The pride of the Valine Empire's military eliminated before they could even land. On the bridge of the Crimson Talon, alarms screamed. Ithra's 3 eyes widened in disbeliefs. His instruments showed him something that could not be real. The planet below was not just defending itself. It was preparing to attack. Weapon ports were opening on every continent. The moon was rotating, bringing massive cannons to bear. And deep in space, something was moving. Something that had been hidden in the asteroid belt, camouflaged and dormant. Mars, the red planet, was not a planet either. It was moving under its own power, accelerating toward Earth's position. Another component of whatever ancient defense network humanity had unknowingly been living on. "Retreat," Ethra commanded. "All ships retreat to jump distance immediately." But even Ash gave the order. He knew it was too late. The Empire had made a terrible mistake. They had not conquered Earth. They had awakened something that should have remained asleep. And now 8 billion confused and frightened humans had just been given control of the most powerful weapon system the galaxy had ever seen. The message repeated across every frequency, translated now into Vern with perfect clarity. Defense protocalcinged. Hostile forces detected. Neutralization authorized. The system is now under protection. Any further aggression will be met with total force. Earth began Toglo. not with the soft light of cities and civilization, but with the harsh blue radiance off weapons charging, weapons that had been built by a civilization so advanced that they could turn entire worlds into warships, weapons that humanity did not understand, but was now suddenly connected to. Weapons that were pointing directly at the Villian fleet. Commander Destra realized in that moment of dawning horror that his conquest of Earth would not take 72 hours. It would not take 72 days. It would not happen at all. Instead, he and his entire fleet might not survive the next 72 minutes. The primitives were not primitives. They were the crew of a world-scale warship. The galaxy was about to learn what that meant. Dr. Sarah Chen stared at her computer screen in complete disbelief. The geological data made no sense. Non-AF it. She had been studying Earth's structure for 15 years. Written her dissertation on tectonic plate movement, published papers in the most prestigious journals. She knew how planets worked. But the data flooding in from seismic stations worldwide told her that everything she knew was wrong. "This cannot be real," she whispered, checking the numbers for the 5th time. "This is impossible." Her colleague, Dr. James Morrison, looked over her shoulder at the display. His face had gone pale. "The readings are reconsistent across all stations. Sarah, look at this. The Pacific tectonic plates not moving naturally. There are manufactured structures underneath it. Metal, composite tannereels, energy conduits the size of cities." Sarah pulled up satellite imagery, geological surveys, deep Earth scans. Every source told the same impossible story. Earth's interior was not what it should be. The core was generating power in ways that violated every law of physics. The mantle contained geometric structures that could not have formed naturally. The crust itself had massive components that were clearly artificial, hidden under miles of natural rock. "How long have these been here?" James asked quietly. Sarah did the calculations, her hands shaking. "Based on the sediment layers, the mineral deposits, the way continental drift has moved over them, millions of years, tens of millions, maybe more. These structures are older than human civilization, older than human species. They were here before we evolved." Across the world, scientists were reaching the same horrifying conclusion. In Moscow, geophysicists stared at scan results showing the Siberian plateau contained massive power generators. In Australia, researchers discovered that the entire continent sat atop what could only be described as a weapons platform. In South America, seismocaries revealed the Amazon basin concealed manufacturing facilities of incredible complexity. Earth was not an natural planet. It was a construct. Something had built it or converted it long before humans existed. And now, with the alien invasion, it had woken up. That President of the United States sat in the Situation Room surrounded by generals and advisors, listening to reports that sounded like science fiction, but the evidence was overwhelming. The destroyed alien landing craft were real. The energy readings were real, and the strange sensation in everyone's mind. That odd new presence was very real. "Mr. President," General Patterson said carefully, "we are receiving reports from personnel at NORAD, the Pentagon, NASA, and every military installation. They are all experiencing the Sama phenomenon, some kind of neural connection. Information appearing in their minds, schematics, instructions, access to systems they did not know existed." "What kind of systems?" the President asked. Patterson hesitated. "Weapon systems, sir? Defense networks." The personnel describe it as having sudden knowledge of how to operate equipment that does not exist in any manual. Lieutenant Morrison at Cheyenne Mountain reports he can feel targeting sensors tracking the alien ships. Commander Richards at Naval Base San Diego says she has awareness of underwater launch platforms in the Pacific. Neither of them understand how they know these things. They just do. Similar reports came from every nation. In China, military officers reported connection to systems buried beneath the Gobi Desert. In Russia, submarine crews detected massive underwater structures responding to their thoughts. In Europe, Air Force pilots felt inexplicable links to satellite networks that were not in any datatobs. Humanity was connected to Earth, not metaphorically. It's actually physically connected through some kind of neural interface that activated when the planet's defensive systems came online. 8 billion people suddenly had access to a weapons platform they did not understand, built by a civilization they had never encountered. A young engineer named Marcus Webb sat at his desk in Settle, staring at his hands. He could feel something new in his mind, like having a new sense he had never possessed before. If he concentrated, he could perceive things that should be invisible to him. Energy flows beneath the city, power conduits, weapon systems, manufacturing bays. He closed his eyes and focused, letting the strange sensation guide him. Information flooded in. Technical specifications, operational parameters, targeting protocols. He was not an engineer anymore. Or rather, he was more than an engineer. He was a potential operator for systems of incredible complexity. In Seoul, a 17-year-old student named Ji-woo Park experienced the same connection. She sat in her apartment, ignoring the emergency broadcasts on television, exploring the strange knowledge pouring in her consciousness. It felt like accessing files on a computer, except the computer was somehow connected directly to her brain. She could sense weapons, enormous weapons, continental in scale. Without fully understanding what she was doing, Ji-woo reached out mentally and touched one offset systems just to see what would happen. Just curious, in the East China Sea, a section of the ocean floor opened. A massive railgun, buried under sediment for millions of years, rose toward the surface. It rotated smoothly, orienting. On targets in orbit, targeting data streamed into Ji-woo's mind with perfect clarity. 2 alien warships. Distance 380,000 kilometers. Threat level high. Authorization to engage granted. Ji-woo hesitated, suddenly aware of the enormous power at her fingertips. She was 17. She had an exam tomorrow. She had never fired a gun in her life. And now, she had access to a weapon that could destroy spaceships. The alien vessels were moving, repositioning to fire on population centers. Tokyo, Seoul, Shanghai. Millions would die if they opened fire. Ji-woo made her decision. She gave the mental command. The railgun fired. The projectile was a solid tungsten rod, 3 meters long, accelerated to a significant fraction of flight speed. It crossed the distance to the alien warships in seconds. The first ship's shields flared briefly, then collapsed. The projectile punctured through the hull like paper, the kinetic energy converting to an explosion that tore the warship apart from the inside. The second ship began evasive maneuvers, but Ji-woo had already fired again. Another tungsten rod, another direct hit. 2 capital ships of the Vranapire, each capable of glassing a continent. Destroyed by a teenager in Seoul who was still wearing her school uniform, Ju sat back in her chair, breathing hard. "What the hell did I just do?" she whispered. Across Earth, others were making similar discoveries. A retired general in Colorado found heckled interface with the moon's targeting systems. He had been out of active service for 5 years, spending his time fishing and watching his grandchildren. Now, he stood in his backyard, staring up at the sky, mentally connected to weapons batteries that could engage targets anywhere in near-Earth space. The Valran fleet was in chaos. They had come expecting easy conquest. Instead, they faced weapons Stee could not predict. Fired by operators who were learning the systems in real time, the primitives were not primitives. They had inherited an arsenal that exceeded the Empire's entire military capability. Commander Zithra watched his fleet strength diminish with each passing minute. 6 more ships destroyed, then for more. The attacks came from impossible angles, from Theplanet's surface, from the moon, from underwater platforms, from weapon-hidden in asteroid clusters. Every system was waking up, and every system was deadly. "We must withdraw," his second officer insisted. "Commander, we are losing ships faster than we can retreat. This is not a battle. This is slaughter." Zth Ra wanted to argue, but the data was undeniable. His invasion force was being systematically eliminated by a defense network that had been dormant for millions of years. The humans were barely controlling it, operating on instinct and guesswork, and they were still winning. "Send a priority message, Edo. Imperial Command," Ethra ordered. "Tell them "We have encountered an architect world." The bridge went silent. Every Vron knew the stories. The architects were an ancient legend, civilization that had vanished millions of years ago. They had been builders of impossible things. Planet-sized constructs, star systems spanning defensive networks, weapons that could crack moons. The Empire had found ruins of architect technology on a few dead worlds, fragments that advanced Vile-Ran science be centuries. But this was not a ruin. This was a functional architect installation, and it had a crew species living on it. Oblivious to what their world truly was, until the moment of activation, Dr. Chen continued analyzing data. Piecing together the truth with growing wonder and horror, Earth was approximately 4.5 billion years old. The architect technology within it dated to about 65 million years ago. Something had happened then. Something that killed the dinosaurs and shaped the planet's surface, concealing the artificial components. Beneath natural geological formations, the architects had converted Earth into a warship and then left it here dormant, while life evolved on its surface. Humans had grown from primitive primates to spacefaring civilization. Never knowing, they lived on a weapons platform. The climate, the ecosystem, even human evolution itself had been influenced by systems managing the planet's environment. They wanted a crew, Dr. Morrison said suddenly. They're pseudotechs. They needed organic operators for their systems. So, they created the right conditions for intelligent life to evolve. We are not just living on an architect world. We are the result of architect engineering. We were created to operate this thing. Sarah felt sick. We are neither by chance. We are here by design. Humanity's entire existence is because the architects needed crews for their warships. It was a disturbing thought, but the evidence supported it. The neural interfaces worked too perfectly with human brain structures. The systems responded to human thought patterns with no learning period. Humanity fit the machinery because humanity had been shaped to fit it through millions of years of guided evolution. Around the world, more people were connecting tooth systems. Not everyone could do it. Some people had no ability to interface at all. Others had limited connection, able to sense but not control. But as mel percentage, maybe 1 in 10,000 had full access. They could operate Thuipons, manage the manufacturing systems, control the planetary drives. These individuals, these accidental pilots were being identified rapidly. Military organizations contacted them trying to coordinate their efforts. But there was no training manual for operating a planet-scale warship, no doctrine for this kind of warfare. Everything was improvisation and instinct. A climate scientist named Dr. Amamira Okafor sat in her office in Logos, suddenly understanding something that had puzzled her for years: global warming. The steady increase in planetary temperature over the past century. Shahad attributed it to human industrial activity, greenhouse gases, deforestation. But now connected to Earth's systems, she understood the truth. The planet had been warming up literally. Its power core, dormant for millions of years, had been gradually activating over the past century. The heat was not from human activity. It was from ancient fusion reactors deep in the Earth's core, coming back online. It's preparing for the moment when they would be needed. Humanity had not been destroying their planet. Their planet had been waking up, and they had mistaken the symptoms of activation for environmental catastrophe. "We have been living on a sleeping giant," Amamira whispered. The Villian fleet retreated beyond the moon's orbit, regrouping. Commander Zethra composed his report to Imperial Command with shaking hands. The conquest of Sol 3 had failed catastrophically. 27 capital ships destroyed, 15 more damaged, 500 landing craft eliminated. Over 40,000 soldiers dead, all in less than 6 hours. The humans hadn't have even fully activated their planetary systems yet. They were still learning, still discovering capabilities. And they had already dealt the Empire a blow that will be remembered for generations. Estra included all the sensor data in his report, the energy signatures, the weapon specifications. It's the evidence of architect construction. Let the Emperor and his advisors decide what to do next. This was beyond a simple military problem. This was a galactic crisis. Earth was an architect world, functional, crude, armed. And the humans controlling it were discovering their power with terrifying speed. In orbit around Earth, the moon completed its transformation. The last of the regolith covering fell away, revealing the truth beneath. It was not a captured asteroid. It was a manufactured moon, a weapons platform with firepower exceeding most fleet carriers. And it was fully online now, bristling with weapons that tracked the retreating Villian ships with patient precision. Across Earth, power grids overloaded as the planet's systems drew electricity from every available source. Cities went dark. It's not from attack, but from their world demanding power for its awakening. Fusion reactors buried in the crust came online, supplementing Anthon, replacing human power generation. Within hours, Earth was generating more energy than humanity had produced in its entire history, and it was still warming up. The message broadcast again. That's some ancient artificial voice speaking in languages human and alien. Primary systems online, crew integration at 37%. Defensive posture established. 3-2 assessment continuing. This installation remains under full combat readiness. Humanity had found Earth. They had built civilizations on it, fought wars on it, created art and science and culture. They thought it was their home. They were right. But home was not what they thought it was. Home was a battleship, and they were its crew. And the galaxy was about to learn what happened when you attacked a world that could fight back. Admiral Kreschel of the Velan Empire studied the holographic display with mounting concern. 3 full battle fleets orbited just beyond Earth's engagement range. Representing Thelargest's military concentration, the Empire had assembled in 50 years. E-10 Laombai warships, Sen Shwen soldiers. Weapons capable of shattering continents. It should have been overwhelming force. But the data from Commander Vithra's initial contact was deeply troubling. The humans possessed architect technology. That changed everything. The Emperor himself had ordered the deployment of these fleets with explicit instructions. Take Earth intact if possible. Destroy it if necessary. The Empire could no tallow an architect installation to remain in hostile hands. Status of the human forces. Kreschel asked his tacticalizer. Difficult to assess, Admiral. The planet itself is a weapons platform with capabilities we cannot fully measure. The moon is a mobile battle station. Several asteroids in the belt have revealed themselves as additional installants. Mars appears to be another component, though currently dormant. As for the humans themselves, they are still learning their systems. Our intelligence suggests only a small percentage can directly interface with the architect technology. Then we strike now, Kell decided. Before they fully understand what they possess, prepare the siege cannons. If we cannot take Earth, we will crack it open and study the pieces. On Earth, chaos continued as humanity struggled with its unexpected inheritance. Military command centers worldwide tried to coordinate the individuals who could interface with the planetary systems. But it was like herding cats. These operators came from every background imaginable. Soldiers, students, engineers, artists. Some were cooperative, others were terrified. A few were drunk with their sudden power. Lieutenant Colonel David Reeves stood in the Pentagon's newly established Interface Operations Center, trying to make sense of the situation. On the screens before him, markers showed the location of confirmed operators around the world. Over 8,000 identified so far. More appeared everywhere as people discovered their connection to the systems. We need organization, Reeves said to his commanding officer, General Hampton. These people need training, coordination. We cannot fight an interstellar empire with random civilians firing weapons they barely understand. Hampton nodded grimly. Agreed, but we do not have time for proper training. Intel suggests the aliens are preparing a major assault, multiple fleets inbound. We need every operator we can get, trained or not. A young man in his early 20s stood near the back of the operations center. Feeling completely out of place, Marcus Webb had been brought here from Seattle after he accidentally activated a coastal defense system that destroyed alien scout ships. He was an engineer comfortable with circuits and code. Now, military officers wanted him to operate weapons that could destroy cities. "I do not know what I am doing," Marcus said honestly. "I felt something in my head touched it, and things happened. I cannot explain how." "You do not need to explain," a woman's voice said. Marcus turned to see a pilot Air Force by her uniform. "Captain Rachel Torres. None of us understand it completely, but we can feel it, right? The connection, the systems responding to our thoughts." Marcus nodded. "It is like having a nuisance. I can feel the weapons, the power systems, manufacturing facilities under the ocean. If I concentrate, I can access them. But actually controlling them is different. It takes focus, intent. Then we practice Rachel Siddi's, simply. The aliens gave us a few hours. We used them. Around the world, similar conversations were happening. In Beijing, Chinese military officers worked with operators who could sense systems beneath the Himalayas. In Moscow, scientists collaborated with individuals who had connected to Arctic installations. The divisions between nations were fading rapidly. When faced with extinction, old rivalries seemed suddenly petty. Ju Park sat in a military facility in Seoul, surrounded by advisors, trying to understand her capabilities. She was the teenager who had destroyed warships. Now she was being treated like a strategic asset. "Can you fire Thaddeupon again?" a general asked her in Korean. Ji Woo closed her eyes, reaching out mentally. The railgun in the East China Sea responded immediately to her attention. "Yes, but it needs time to recharge. Maybe 10 minutes between shots, and I can feel other weapons, different systems. Some I understand, many I do not. Show us what you can access," another officer requested. Ji Woo opened her senses fully, letting the connection expand. Information flooded in. She could feel weapons, platforms across Asia, defense systems in the Pacific, manufacturing facilities beneath the ocean floor, power generators in the Earth's crust. It was overwhelming, like trying to drink from a fire hose. "There is so much," she whispered. "Weapons everywhere. Some are active, some are still sleeping, some are damaged. And there are systems I cannot identify, things that might not be weapons at all. Manufacturing, transportation, I cannot tell." In Colorado, retired General Arthur Hendricks stood in his backyard, mentally connected to the moon's weapons grid. He had spent 40 years in the military before retiring to a quiet life. Now, at age 67, he was back in service, the most important service of his life. The moon's systems were vast and complex. Hundreds of weapons, batteries, shield generators, power cores, sensor arrays. Rix could access them all, but controlling them simultaneously was impossible. He focused on the primary weapons, the massive cannons designed for engaging capital ships. "Fire control is responsive," he reported through his phone to the Pentagon liaison. "I can target individual ships or engage multiple targets, but the system wants parameters, rules of engagement. It keeps asking my questions I do not have answers for." The liaison's voice came back. "What kind of questions?" "Threat assessment protocols, acceptable collateral damage thresholds, priority targeting criteria. The system is waiting for command-level decisions. Board, it will operate at full capacity. I think the architects designed it to require conscious oversight. Humans have to make the hard choices. The machines just execute them." It was a sobering thought. The weapons were incredible, but they were no autonomous. They needed human judgment, human morality. Humanity had not just inherited a warship, they had inherited the responsibility of deciding when and how to use it. Dr. Sarah Chen had been relocated to a bunker beneath NORAD, working with a team of scientists trying to understand Earth's structure. The geological data was staggering. Every continent contained architect technology. The entire planetary crust was interwoven with machinery. "It is beautiful," Sarah said, studying Theskins in a terrifying way. "The integration of artificial and natural systems is seamless." The architects did not just build weapons into Earth. They made the weapons part of Earth. The planet's tectonic activity is managed by the systems. The magnetic field is generated by artificial cores. Even the atmosphere is regulated by environmental processors. Earth as we know it exists. Best the architects made it this way. A young geophysicist named Dr. Yuki Tanaka pointed to a specific scan. Look at this. The Pacific Ocean floor. There are aerostructures down there, larger than cities. Manufacturing complexes. They are starting to activate producing something. The output is being transported through underwater channels. Producing what? Sarah asked. Drones, I think. Automated defenders. The system is building its own fleet. Across Earth's oceans, ancient factories came online. They drew resources from the ocean floor, processed minerals through technologies humanity barely understood, and produced machines of war, small attack drones, space fighters, automated weapon platforms. The production rate is extraordinary. One factory alone was outputting 1,000 units per hour. Humanity was not fighting alone. Earth itself was mobilizing, manufacturing the tools for its own defense. Admiral Kushdell received reports of the manufacturing activity with growing alarm. They are building forces. The planet is literally construct a military fleet. If we do not strike now, they will become unbeatable. Siege cannons ready, Admiral. His weapons officer reported targeting the planet's major power nodes. If we destroy the primary reactors, the defense system should fail. Cal gave the order. Fire. 6 massive beams of coherent energy lanced toward Earth from the Villian fleet. Each beam carried enough power to vaporize a mountain. They targeted locations where sensor data showed the strongest energy signatures. Beijing, Moscow, the Sahara, the Amazon, Antarctica, the Pacific. The beams struck Earth's atmosphere and stopped. Simply stopped as if hitting an invisible wall. The atmosphere itself was the first layer of defense, a shield of incredible sophistication. The energy from the siege cannons was absorbed, distributed, and dissipated harmlessly across the global grid. Impossible, Cresto shouted. Those are Segredua pawns. They should penetrate any shield. The planetary defense is unlike anything in our database, his sciencey officer reported. It is not a traditional energy shield. It is manipulating the atmosphere itself, using it as a medium to redistribute incoming energy. Our weapons are not penetrating. They are being spread across the entire planetary surface until the energy density is negligible. On Earth, operators felt the attic through their neural links. The siege cannons had been powerful, but the planetary shields had handled them easily. However, the shield system dented more power. More reactors came online, more systems activated. Earth wascalating its defensive posture. Marcus Webb, standing in the Pentagon Operations Center, suddenly gasped. New. Information flooded into his mind. I have access to something new, something big. It is calling itself a planetary drive. I think Earth can move. Every officer in the room turned to stare at him. General Hampton spoke carefully. What do you mean move? Move like a ship. The planet has engines. Massive engines. They are buried deep, aligned with the planet's rotation. If we activate them, Earth can leave orbit. It can maneuver. Marcus looked up, his eyes wide with realization. We are not just on a warship. We are on a mobile warship. The implication was staggering. Earth was not bound to its orbit. It could travel. It could position itself strategically. It was not a stationary target. It was a vessel. Rachel Torres, the Air Force captain, spoke up. If Earth can move, what about the other planets? Mars showed signs of activation. Are they warships too? Sarah Chen, monitoring from NORAD, jumped in on the communication line. Mars is definitely artificial. So are several of the larger asteroids. Jupiter's moons are showing unusual readings too. I think this entire solar system is an architect installation. Earth might be the flagship, but it is not alone. There is a whole fleet here, Arling and Arling. The humans were beginning to understand the scope of Hut they had inherited. Not just a planet, an entire star system converted into a military installation. The architects had not built one warship. They had built a fleet anchored around Sol, and Sol-Ju experimented with her connection, reaching deeper into the systems. She found some ethnics, a database, historical records. The information was in a format her mind could barely process. But fragments came through. Images, concepts, warnings. The architects were fighting something, she said aloud to the military advisors around her. Something terrible, I can sense it in the records. They built these installations as a defense against a threat. A big threat. I cannot understand all of it, but I feel the fear in the data. Their Q-detects were afraid. The big three. What could frighten a civilization capable of converting planets into warships? What threat required such extreme measures? The questions hung in the air. Unanswered, Admiral Kushal made his decision. The siege cannons had failed. Conventional weapons were ineffective. He had one option left. Prepare Theplanet crackers. Target Earth's core. If we cannot disable it, we will destroy it. Planet crackers were the Empire's ultimate weapon. Missiles that burrowed through a planet's crust and detonated in the mantle, triggering catastrophic geological instability. They had been used to destroy 3 rebellious worlds in the Empire's history. Never had they been used against an architect in Stalin. Katal did not know if they would work, but he was out of options. Fire planet crackers. Authorization code, Omega-7. 6 missiles, each the size OFA building, launched from the fleet. They were designed to be unstoppable. Heavy armor, evasive programming. They would reach Earth's surface and burrow down before detonation. Nothing could intercept them all. On Earth, every operator felt the threat's simultaneous. The missiles were different from other weapons. They were designed for planetary destruction. If they detonated successfully, Earth would die, and 8 billion humans would die with it. Marcus felt the planetary systems surge with his panic. We need to stop the missiles. All of them. How do we stop them? General Hendricks, connected to the moon's weapons, acted first. He engaged the missiles with the moon's point defense systems. 2 missiles destroyed, but 4 remained. Ju fired her railgun. 1 missile eliminated. 3 left. Rachel Torres, discovering she could control atmospheric drones, launched hundreds of them. They swarmed their manning missiles. Kamikaze attacks from automated fighters. 1 more missile destroyed, 2 left. The last few missiles entered Earth's atmosphere, their armor glowing white-hot. They weren't too close, too fast. Conventional weapons could not stop them in time. Marcus made a desperate decision. He activated the planetary drive, not Tomov Earth, just one engine. A focused pulse of thrust directed upward through the atmosphere. The exhaust from an engine designed to push an entire planet. The blast was incomprehensible. A column of superheated plasma erupted from the Pacific Ocean, reaching into space like the finger of an angry god. The 2 missiles flew directly into Itand, vaporized instantly. The ocean around the engine port boiled. Steam clouds rose for miles. But Earth survived. We did it, Marcus whispered, exhausted. We stopped them. But Admiral Kressel was already ordering another salvo. And another fleet had just appeared at the system's edge. The Empire was committing everything to this battle. Earth had survived the first exchange, but the real war was on the beginning, and humanity was learning a harsh lesson. Owning the most powerful warship in the galaxy meant a nothing if you did not know how to fight with it. The emergency session of the United Nations had never seen anything like this. Representatives from every nation sat together, old enemies side by side. Watching the holographic display showing Valerian fleet positions, 3 more battle groups had arrived. The alien armada now numbered over 1,800 warships. They surrounded the solar system like a closing fist. We are outnumbered, the Russian ambassador said quietly. Even with Earth's weapons, we face impossible odds. The American representative shook her head. Numbers not matter if we cannot coordinate. We have 8,000 operators worldwide, each controlling different systems. We are fighting as individuals, not as a unit. We need organization. Unity. Unity, the Chinese ambassador repeated. How do we achieve that when we barely understand the weapons we are using? An unexpected voice spoke up. Dr. Sarah Chen, theojoicist, had been granted special access to address the assembly. The neural interface works better when operators cooperate. We have been testing it. When multiple operators focus on the same system together, their connection strengthens. The architect technology responds to collective human consciousness. It is designed for crews working in coordination. The Secretary General leaned forward. You are saying the system works best when we work together. Exactly. The architects built this as a warship. And warships need crews, not individual heroes. Coordinated teams. When operators combine their efforts, they can access capabilities none of them could reach alone. It was a revelation that changed everything. Earth's defenders needed to stop fighting as scattered individuals and start operating as a unified crew. But that required something humanity had struggled with throughout its history: cooperation on a global scale. We need a command structure. A military advisor suggested operators assigned to specific systems, clear chains of command, coordinated tactics. We need more Thanthote, said Dr. Amamira Okafor, the climate scientist who understood the planetary power systems. We need volunteers willing to enter deep neural integration. The system has chambers, facilities designed for maximum connection. Operators who enter them can access far greater capabilities, but at significant physical cost. The implications were sobering. Deep integration meant risking lives to achieve greater power. It meant asking people to become part of the machine, potentially burning out their nervous systems for the sake of planetary dents. Where are these chambers? The Secretary General asked. Amamira pulled up a map all over the world under the pyramids of Giza. Beneath Stonehenge, at Angkor Wat in Cambodia. Under Machu Picchu, Bickley, Easter Island. Every ancient site that humanity considered sacred or mysterious. They were all built on top of architect integration chambers. Our ancestors sensed something powerful in those locations. They were right. Marcus Webb sat in the Pentagon Operations Center, listening to the global conference through his headset. The idea of deep integration terrified him, but the alternative was worse. If Earth fell, humanity ended. It was that simple. I will do it, he said quietly. I will volunteer for deep integration. General Hampton looked at him seriously. You understand the risks? The medical teams cannot guarantee your safety. We do not fully understand what this will do to your body. I understand. But I can feel the planetary drive systems. They respond to me better than to anyone else. If I enter deep integration, maybe I can actually move Earth, position us strategically. We need Avery advantage. Similar conversations happened around the world. Ji Woo, in Seoul, volunteered for the chamber beneath the Korean demilitarized zone, a site that had been discovered only days ago. General Ricks, despite his SAJ, insisted on entering the chamber beneath Cheyenne Mountain, seeking deeper connection to the moon's systems. Rachel Torres requested assignment to a chamber in New Mexico. Where she had grown up near ancient PBLO and ruins, hundreds volunteered. Thousands, young and old, military and civilian, from every nation and culture. They would become Earth's pilots, linking their nervous systems directly to a planet-scale warship. Many would not survive the process, but they went willingly, understanding what was at stake. The integration chambers were incredible. Ancient technology that had waited millions of years for the right crucibles. Marcus descended into the chamber beneath the Great Pyramid, accompanied by medical staff and military observers. The chamber was vast walls covered in geometric patterns that glowed with soft blue light. At the center stood a chair, or perhaps a throne. Designed for a human body with unsettling precision, the architects knew what we would look like. Marcus said, staring at the chair. They designed this for humans specifically. How is that possible? Dr. Chen, monitoring remotely, offered her theory. They did not predict what we would look like. They engineered it. They shaped human evolution over millions of years to produce operators compatible with their systems. We fit because we were made to fit. It was a disturbing thought, but Marcus had no time to dwell on it. He sat in the chair. Immediately, connections emerged from the armrests and headrest. Finton drills that interfaced with his nervous system. There was no pain, just an overwhelming sensation of expansion. His consciousness spread outward, merging with the planetary drive systems. Suddenly, he was not just Marcus anymore. He was part of Earth itself. He could feel the planet's rotation, its orbit around the sun, the gravitational interactions with the moon and other planets, and he could change those things. The planetary drives were his to command, responding to thought as naturally as moving his own limbs. Integration successful. A medical monitor reported neural activity is stable. Subject is maintaining consciousness. Marcus could barely hear them. His awareness was too vast. Heckle sensed the Vron fleet positioning for another attack. He could feel the strain on Earth's shield systems, and he knew, with absolute certainty, what needed to be done. Earth needs to move, Hesad, his voice distant. The fleet is concentrating fire on one hemisphere. If you rotate faster, distribute the incoming energy across more surface area, I can do it. He engaged the planetary drives not to move Earth from orbit, but to alter its rotation. The planet's spin increased slightly, just enough to ensure no single location bore the brunt of sustained bombardment. It was such a small change that humans on the surface barely noticed. But strategically, it was significant. In Seoul, Ju entered her integration chamber and connected to the weapons grid. Her consciousness exploded outward, linking with every weapons platform across Asia and the Pacific. Hundreds of railguns, thousands of missile batteries, drone swarms numbering in the millions. They all answered to her now. A symphony of destruction, awaiting her command. But the integration came with a cost. Pain shot through her nervous system. The connection was burning her out, demanding more than her body could safely give. She could feel her health degrading, cells damaged by the neural load. The doctors had warned her this would happen. Deep integration destroyed the human body eventually. It was simply too much for organic tissue to handle. She had days, maybe a week, if she was lucky. But in thought time, she would be one of Earth's most powerful defenders. She accepted trade. General Rix achieved integration in the Cheyenne Mountain Chamber and immediately understood the moon's full capabilities. It was not just a weapons platform. It was a mobile command center to coordinate planetary defense across entire star systems. With him guiding it, the moon became the nerve center of Earth's military operations. All operators. This is Command Rix broadcast through the neural network. EAM establishing firing priorities and target assignments. Stand by for coordinated operations. For the first time, Earth's defenders were not fighting as individuals. They were operating as a crew, with Rick serving as the strategic coordinator. His deep integration allowed him to perceive the entire battle space and direct forces with precision. Rachel Torres, integrated with atmospheric defense systems, coordinated the drone swarms. Dr. Okafor managed power distribution, ensuring energy flowed to the systems that needed it most. Other operators managed shields, targeting manufacturing and logistics. They were becoming a crew in the truest sense. Admiral Kushtal watched this coordination emerge with growing desperation. They are learning, he said to his officers. Every hour they become more effective. We must break their defense now before they achieve full operational capability. The extinction fleet has arrived. His tactical officer reported 98 capital ships, armed with weapons designed to sterilize rebellious worlds. The extinction fleet was the Empire's ultimate response to worlds that refused submission. It had destroyed 3 civilizations in the Empire's history. Each time, the targeted world had been reduced to molten slag, its full life eradicated. The fleet carried weapons that could ignite atmospheres, boil oceans, and crack planetary crusts. Deploy the extinction fleet, Cresto ordered. The sends now. On Earth, every operator felt the new threat arrive. The extinction fleet weapons were unlike anything they had faced. These were not precision instruments. They were tools of genocide's eyes, ginned for total destruction. Rix assessed the situation coldly. We cannot defend against that firepower indefinitely. We need to take the offensive, strike at their fleet directly. How? Ju asked through the neural network. We are powerful, but we're still one planet against hundreds of warships. Mars Marcus said suddenly. I can feel it. Mars is not just an installation. It is a frigate, a support vessel. If we wake it up, Dr. Chen confirmed from her position. Mars issuing increasing activity, the same activation patterns we saw with Earth. If an operator achieves integration there, we might be able to bring it online. We do not have anyone on Mars, General Hampton pointed out. We can send someone, Rachel suggested. Earth's manufacturing systems have been producing ships. Small ones, but functional. We have spacecraft now. We can get someone to Mars. It was a desperate plan. Send an operator to Mars. Achieve integration. Wake up a planet-sized warship that had been dormant for millions of years. The risks were enormous, but the alternative was extinction. I will go, a voice said over network. It was a Russian cosmonaut, Commander Dmitry Vulov, stationed on the International Space Station when the invasion began. I am already in space. Get me a ship, and I will reach Mars. The decision was made quickly. One of Earth's newly manufactured ships was dispatched to collect Vulov. It was a small craft, barely large enough for one person. But it was fast. It could reach Mars in hours, using technology humanity had never possessed before. While Vulov began his journey, the extinction fleet opened fire. The attack was devastating. Coherent energy beams designed to ignite atmospheres struck Earth's shields. The planetary defense held, but barely. Power systems strained. Shield generators overloaded. The operators felt Earth's pain through their neural links. Redistribute shield coverage, Rix commanded. Focus on the northern hemisphere. Let some energy through on southern oceans. We can absorb impacts on water. It was a calculated risk, allowing some weapons through me accepting damage. But trying to block everything would overload the shields completely. Earth had to endure some hits to survive. The extinction fleet beams penetrated the shields in the South Pacific. The ocean boiled instantly. Billions of tons of water flash vaporized into steam. Tsunamis radiated outward from the impact zones. Coastal cities evacuated in panic. Earth itself survived. Jiwoo coordinated the counterattack. With her DEP integration, she controlled weapons across the Pacific region like extensions of her own body. Railguns fired in perfect synchronization. Missile swarms launched in waves. Drone fighters engaged the extinction fleet's smaller craft. 3 capital ships of the extinction fleet were destroyed in the first minute of her assault. 5 more in the second minute. The villain forces had never faced such precise, overwhelming counterfire. One human operator integrated with the planetary systems was proving more effective than their entire tactical division. But the cost was terrible. Jiwoo screamed as her nervous system burned. Medical monitors show catastrophic damage. Her body was failing under the neural load. Break integration, her medical team shouted. You are killing yourself. Not yet, Ju gasped. Not until Mars wakes up. No tuntil, we have support. She held on through sheer willpower, directing Earth's fury at the extinction Fledivin as her body degraded. She was 17 years old, and she was dying to save her world. Commander Vulov reached Mars in record time. The Red Planet had been quietly activating during Earth's battle, its own architect systems coming online in sympathy with its sister world. Volkov landed near Olympus Mons, the largest volcano in the solar system, now revealed to be the primary integration chamber for the Mars installation. He descended into the Martian facility and found a chamber identical to Earth's. He sat in the chair without hesitation. The connection was instantaneous and overwhelming. Mars was smaller than Earth, but no less powerful. It was incredible. Ancient technology that had waited millions of years for the right crucifices. Marcus descended into the chamber beneath the Great Pyramid, accompanied by medical staff and military observers. The chamber was vast walls covered in geometric patterns that glowed with soft blue light. At the center stood a chair, or perhaps a throne. Designed for a human body with unsettling precision, the architects knew what we would look like. Marcus said, staring at the chair. They designed this for humans specifically. How is that possible? Dr. Chen, monitoring remotely, offered her theory. They did not predict what we would look like. They engineered it. They shaped human evolution over millions of years to produce operators compatible with their systems. We fit because we were made to fit. It was a disturbing thought, but Marcus had no time to dwell on it. He sat in the chair. Immediately, connections emerged from the armrests and headrest. Finton drills that interfaced with his nervous system. There was no pain, just an overwhelming sensation of expansion. His consciousness spread outward, merging with the planetary drive systems. Suddenly, he was not just Marcus anymore. He was part of Earth itself. He could feel the planet's rotation, its orbit around the sun, the gravitational interactions with the moon and other planets, and he could change those things. The planetary drives were his to command, responding to thought as naturally as moving his own limbs. Integration successful. A medical monitor reported neural activity is stable. Subject is maintaining consciousness. Marcus could barely hear them. His awareness was too vast. Heckle sensed the Vron fleet positioning for another attack. He could feel the strain on Earth's shield systems, and he knew, with absolute certainty, what needed to be done. Earth needs to move, Hesad, his voice distant. The fleet is concentrating fire on one hemisphere. If you rotate faster, distribute the incoming energy across more surface area, I can do it. He engaged the planetary drives not to move Earth from orbit, but to alter its rotation. The planet's spin increased slightly, just enough to ensure no single location bore the brunt of sustained bombardment. It was such a small change that humans on the surface barely noticed. But strategically, it was significant. In Seoul, Ju entered her integration chamber and connected to the weapons grid. Her consciousness exploded outward, linking with every weapons platform across Asia and the Pacific. Hundreds of railguns, thousands of missile batteries, drone swarms numbering in the millions. They all answered to her now. A symphony of destruction, awaiting her command. But the integration came with a cost. Pain shot through her nervous system. The connection was burning her out, demanding more than her body could safely give. She could feel her health degrading, cells damaged by the neural load. The doctors had warned her this would happen. Deep integration destroyed the human body eventually. It was simply too much for organic tissue to handle. She had days, maybe a week, if she was lucky. But in thought time, she would be one of Earth's most powerful defenders. She accepted trade. General Rix achieved integration in the Cheyenne Mountain Chamber and immediately understood the moon's full capabilities. It was not just a weapons platform. It was a mobile command center to coordinate planetary defense across entire star systems. With him guiding it, the moon became the nerve center of Earth's military operations. All operators. This is Command Rix broadcast through the neural network. EAM establishing firing priorities and target assignments. Stand by for coordinated operations. For the first time, Earth's defenders were not fighting as individuals. They were operating as a crew, with Rick serving as the strategic coordinator. His deep integration allowed him to perceive the entire battle space and direct forces with precision. Rachel Torres, integrated with atmospheric defense systems, coordinated the drone swarms. Dr. Okafor managed power distribution, ensuring energy flowed to the systems that needed it most. Other operators managed shields, targeting manufacturing and logistics. They were becoming a crew in the truest sense. Admiral Kushtal watched this coordination emerge with growing desperation. They are learning, he said to his officers. Every hour they become more effective. We must break their defense now before they achieve full operational capability. The extinction fleet has arrived. His tactical officer reported 98 capital ships, armed with weapons designed to sterilize rebellious worlds. The extinction fleet was the Empire's ultimate response to worlds that refused submission. It had destroyed 3 civilizations in the Empire's history. Each time, the targeted world had been reduced to molten slag, its full life eradicated. The fleet carried weapons that could ignite atmospheres, boil oceans, and crack planetary crusts. Deploy the extinction fleet, Cresto ordered. The sends now. On Earth, every operator felt the new threat arrive. The extinction fleet weapons were unlike anything they had faced. These were not precision instruments. They were tools of genocide as eyes, ginned for total destruction. Rix assessed the situation coldly. We cannot defend against that firepower indefinitely. We need to take the offensive, strike at their fleet directly. How? Ju asked through the neural network. We are powerful, but we're still one planet against hundreds of warships. Mars Marcus said suddenly. I can feel it. Mars is not just an installation. It is a frigate, a support vessel. If we wake it up, Dr. Chen confirmed from her position. Mars issuing increasing activity, the same activation patterns we saw with Earth. If an operator achieves integration there, we might be able to bring it online. We do not have anyone on Mars, General Hampton pointed out. We can send someone, Rachel suggested. Earth's manufacturing systems have been producing ships. Small ones, but functional. We have spacecraft now. We can get someone to Mars. It was a desperate plan. Send an operator to Mars. Achieve integration. Wake up a planet-sized warship that had been dormant for millions of years. The risks were enormous, but the alternative was extinction. I will go, a voice said over network. It was a Russian cosmonaut, Commander Dmitry Vulov, stationed on the International Space Station when the invasion began. I am already in space. Get me a ship, and I will reach Mars. The decision was made quickly. One of Earth's newly manufactured ships was dispatched to collect Vulov. It was a small craft, barely large enough for one person. But it was fast. It could reach Mars in hours, using technology humanity had never possessed before. While Vulov began his journey, the extinction fleet opened fire. The attack was devastating. Coherent energy beams designed to ignite atmosphere struck Earth's shields. The planetary defense held, but barely. Power systems strained. Shield generators overloaded. The operators felt Earth's pain through their neural links. Redistribute shield coverage, Rix commanded. Focus on the northern hemisphere. Let some energy through on southern oceans. We can absorb impacts on water. It was a calculated risk, allowing some weapons through me accepting damage. But trying to block everything would overload the shields completely. Earth had to endure some hits to survive. The extinction fleet beams penetrated the shields in the South Pacific. The ocean boiled instantly. Billions of tons of water flash vaporized into steam. Tsunamis radiated outward from the impact zones. Coastal cities evacuated in panic. Earth itself survived. Jiwoo coordinated the counterattack. With her DEP integration, she controlled weapons across the Pacific region like extensions of her own body. Railguns fired in perfect synchronization. Missile swarms launched in waves. Drone fighters engaged the extinction fleet's smaller craft. 3 capital ships of the extinction fleet were destroyed in the first minute of her assault. 5 more in the second minute. The villain forces had never faced such precise, overwhelming counterfire. One human operator integrated with the planetary systems was proving more effective than their entire tactical division. But the cost was terrible. Jiwoo screamed as her nervous system burned. Medical monitors show catastrophic damage. Her body was failing under the neural load. Break integration, her medical team shouted. You are killing yourself. Not yet, Ju gasped. Not until Mars wakes up. No tuntil, we have support. She held on through sheer willpower, directing Earth's fury at the extinction Fledivin as her body degraded. She was 17 years old, and she was dying to save her world. Commander Vulov reached Mars in record time. The Red Planet had been quietly activating during Earth's battle. Its own architect systems coming online in sympathy with its sister world. Volkov landed near Olympus Mons, the largest volcano in the solar system, now revealed to be the primary integration chamber for the Mars installation. He descended into the Martian facility and found a chamber identical to Earth's. He sat in the chair without hesitation. The connection was instantaneous and overwhelming. Mars was smaller than Earth, but no less powerful. It was. Designed as a support vessel, a weapons frigate that could maneuver quickly and provide covering fire for the larger planetary warships. Integration complete. Volkov reported through Thistler system. Wide neural network. Mars is online, preparing to join the battle. For the first time in millions of years, Mars moved under its own power. The red planet broke orbit, accelerating toward Earth's position with impossible speed. It was not as heavily armed as Earth, but it was fast, maneuverable, and absolutely terrifying to witness. A planet moving like a starship, crossing the distance between orbital paths in minutes rather than months. The Veil-Ran fleet scattered in panic as Mars approached. A second world-scale warship entering the battle. Admiral Cresto watched his strategic situation collapse. "Retreat," he ordered. "All ships retreat. Bind the system's gravity well. Prepare for emergency jump." But Earth and Mars were not letting them go easily. The two planets, coordinated through their integrated crews, unleashed a devastating bombardment. Weapons that had been charging during the battle released simultaneously, while the extinction fleet was caught in a crossfire between two planet ships. 98 capital ships entered the battle. 43 survived to retreat. The rest were destroyed, vaporized, or left crippled and drifting. The greatest fleet the Valran Empire had ever assembled was shattered in less than an hour. Ju finally released her integration, collapsing unconscious in her chair. Medical teams rushed to stabilize her. She had held on long enough to see victory, but her body was destroyed. She would not survive more than a few days. She had given everything for Earth. Similar casualties occurred across the planet. Of the thousands who achieved deep integration, hundreds died from neural burnout. Thousands more were permanently injured. The medical costs of operating a world-scale warship were devastating. But Earth had survived. Mars was awake, and the Valran Empire was retreating in defeat, leaving behind a cage and shattered pride. Humanity had won its first major battle. But they all knew this was not the end. The Empire would return, and next time they would bring more than conventional fleets. They would bring everything they had. Earth needed to prepare. And humanity needed to decide what kind of civilization they would become now that they knew their true nature. They were not just inhabitants of a planet, or the crew of a warship. The galaxy was watching to see what they would do next. 3 weeks had passed since the Battle of Sol, as humanity was already calling it. The wreckage of Villian warships still orbited Earth like a graveyard. Some pieces had been captured and were being studied. Others had been destroyed or had drifted into the sun. The debris field served as a constant reminder of what humanity had accomplished and what they had lost. Jiwoo Park died 4 days after the battle. She never regained consciousness after her final integration session. Her funeral in Seoul was attended by thousands, and billions more watched worldwide. She was 17 years old and had destroyed more enemy warships than most military forces could claim. Statues were being planned, schools would be named after her. But for now, her family simply mourned their daughter, who had given everything to save the world. She was not alone. Over 2,000 deep integration operators had died from neural burnout. Thousands more were permanently disabled. Their nervous systems too damaged to ever fully recover. The cost of operating architect technology was measured in human lives, and humanity was still learning that terrible arithmetic. General Arthur. Riss stood on the observation deck of the moon, looking down at Earth. The moon had become humanity's first permanent off-world military installation, housing 5,000 personnel who helped coordinate planetary defense. Riss himself could no longer return to Earth. His deep integration was permanent. He was neurally bonded to the moon's systems. If he tried to leave, the connection would kill him. The moon was his Bodino, and he would serve here until he died. Status report. He requests through the neural network. Ports flooded in from operators around the solar system. Earth was still recovering from the battle. Shield generators had been repaired. Damaged weapons platforms were being rebuilt by the manufacturing Phallus. The wounded planet was healing itself with architect technology, though some scars would remain. Mars orbited nearby, close enough to provide mutual support with Earth. Commander Dmitry Vulov had become Mars's permanent pilot, as deeply integrated as Rix. Thetwo of them coordinated defensive strategy through neural communication that happened at the speed of thought. Movement in the Kuiper Belt, Vulev reported. Sensors are detecting something, not Valran signatures, something else. Rix focused the moon's sensors. Volkov was right. Objects were moving in the outer system, not ships, not natural asteroids, something in between. Jupiter's moons are responding. I think they are waking up. What? The revelation sent shockwaves through the solar system. Europa, Ganymede, Callisto. The Galilean moons were revealing themselves as additional architect installations, smaller than Earth or Mars, but still massive. And they were activating without human intervention, responding to the recent battle like dormant guardians sensing threat. "We need operators there," Hendrik said. "If Jupiter's moons are functional installations, we need crews for them." A new wave of volunteers was already being prepared. Humanity's understanding of the architect network was expanding rapidly. The entire solar system was an installation. Earth was the flagship. Mars was the support frigate. The moon was command and control. Jupiter's moons appeared to be weapons platforms and manufacturing centers. Even some asteroids were showing signs of architect construction. Humanity had not inherited one warship. They had inherited a fleet anchored to a star. On Earth, the political situation was evolving as rapidly as the military one. The old system of nation-states was dissolving, not through conquest or revolution, but through simple necessity. Operating a planet-scale warship required global coordination. Borders had become meaningless. When every human was potentially part of Earth's crew, the United Nations had transformed into something new. A true planetary government focused on coordination and resource allocation. It was far from perfect. Arguments still erupted over resource distribution, operator selection, strategic priorities, but the fundamental shift had occurred. Humanity was thinking of itself as one species, one crew facing challenges agar. Dr. Sarah Chin led the scientific efforts to understand the architect technology. Her team had made remarkable discoveries. The architects had not just built weapons, it built entire civilizations into their installations. There were living spaces discovered beneath every continent. Cities designed for crews numbering in the hundreds of millions. Humanity could theoretically move their entire population. Underground Dinto architect designed habitats while leaving the surface for weapons and manufacturing. The architects expected massive crews, Sarah explained in a presentation to the new Planetary Council. Earth alone was designed. Support, 500 million operators, and 5 billion support personnel. Mars could hold 50 million. The Jupiter moons were meant for smaller, specialized crews. This was not just military technology. This was civilization-scale engineering. The implications were staggering. Humanity was not supposed to be confined to Earth's surface. They were meant to spread throughout the architect faculties, turning the entire solar system into a lived-in, operated network. It would take generations to fully populate the system, but the infrastructure was already there waiting. Meanwhile, diplomatic efforts were underway. The moon had been converted into a mobile, diplomatic vessel. Though it rarely moved from Earth orbit, it had traveled once to the edge of the solar system, carrying human envoys to meet representatives from other galactic civilizations. The first contact with the broader galactic community was tense. Ambassador Maria Santos led the human delegation, accompanied by military advisors and scientists. They met representatives from the Galactic Council, a loose alliance of civilizations that maintained trade and communication across explored space. The council chambers were aboard a massive space station, neutral territory maintained by dozens of species. When the human delegation arrived on the moon, which dwarfed the space station completely, the visual impact was profound. The other species had heard reports about Earth. Seeing the humans arrive in a weaponized moon made those reports terrifyingly real. Ambassador Santos spoke carefully. Humanity wishes to establish peaceful relations with the galactic community. We did not choose to become operators of architect technology, but we will not apologize for defending ourselves against invasion. The council representatives included species from across the galaxy. Some were humanoid, others were entirely alien. All of them looked at the humans with a mixture of fear and respect. A representative from the Cathan Assembly, a civilization nearly as old as the Villian Empire, spoke first. The architects were the ancient enemy of all civilizations. They built their planet ships to fight a war that ended millions of years ago. Their technology is the most dangerous in the known galaxy, and you control an entire system of it. We are still learning to control it, Santos replied honestly. Many of our people have died operating systems they barely understood. We are not the architects. We are humans who happen to evolve on an architect installation. That is what concerns us, a differential prize, it said, from a species Santos did not recognize. The architects vanished mysteriously. Their planet ships went dormant. No one knows why. No one knows if they are really gone or merely waiting. And now humans have awakened one of their installations. You may have triggered something far more dangerous than the Villian invasion. It was a chilling thought. What if Thurchitex were not extinct? What if Earth's activation had sent some kind of signal? What if something was coming in response? Santos had no answers, but she offered what she could. Humanity will share what we learn about the architect technology. We will not threaten peaceful civilizations. We ask only for the same courtesy. Leave us in peace, and we will coexist peacefully with the galaxy. And if the Viren Empire attacks again, the Cathara president asked, then we will defend ourselves. Santos said simply, well, hate that right. The council could not argue with that. But the political situation was complex. The Valen Empire, though defeated, was still the largest single military power in the region. They had withdrawn, but not surrendered. Intelligence suggested they were building, preparing for another attempt. The empire itself was splitting over the question of Earth. Hardliners stunted revenge and total conquest. Pragmatists argued for negotiation and peace. The emperor was old, and his succession was uncertain. If he died, civil war might erupt between the factions. The empire is wounded, Rix reported to the Planetary Council after analyzing intelligence reports. But wounded animals are dangerous. They might attack recklessly, or they might withdraw permanently. We cannot predict their next move. Then, must be ready for anything, the council decided. Continue training operators. Activate more installations. If the Empire returns, we will be stronger than before. The training programs had evolved significantly. Humanity now understood that deep integration was not necessary for every operator. Most could function effectively with standard neural interface. Maintaining their health while still contributing to planetary defense, deep integration was reserved for critical systems and emergency situations. New training facilities were established at every ancient site. The pyramids, Stonehenge, Machu Picchu, and Awat, places that had been tourist destinations, became militaremies, training humanity's next-generation off-planet ship operators. Children as young as 10 showed aptitude for the neural interface. They were not sent into combat. They learned the basics, preparing for a future where operating architect systems might be as common as driving a car. Commander Marcus Webrick hovered from his integration experience. Unlike Rix, his connection was not permanent. He could disconnect from the planetary drives, though it left him disoriented for days afterward. He continued serving as Earth's primary helmsman, the person who could move the planet when necessary. It gets easier, he told new operator trainees. The first time it feels like you are drowning in information. Your mind is not built to process planetary scale awareness, but with practice, you learn to filter. Focus on what matters. Trust the systems to handle the details. The trainees listened intently. They were the future. Some would operate weapons. Others would manage manufacturing or power systems. A few might achieve deep integration and become permanent. Crew for Mars or Jupiter's moons. All of them understood the stakes. Dr. Amamira Okafor had made a disturbing discovery in the architect databases. The historical records Jiwoo had partially accessed before her death were now being translated more completely. The architects had built their planet ships to fight something specific, something that had threatened their entire civilization. They called it the Devourers, Amamira explained to the council. From what I can translate, they were a species or force that consumed worlds, not conquering them, literalating them, converting planetary mass into their own infrastructure. The architects built planet ships as a response. Worlds that could fight back. Worlds that could move away from danger. What happened to the Devourers? Someone asked. The records are unclear. Either the architects won and the Devourers were destroyed, or the war ended in stalemate and both sides withdrew. But here's the concerning part. The activation protocols for architect installations include a specific warning. If Earth detects her signatures, all systems go to maximum combat readiness automatically. Are we detecting those signatures? Santos asked. Not yet. But the system is watching. If the Devourers still exist somewhere in the galaxy, Earth will know if they approach. It was yet another threat to worry about. But humanity was learning to live with existential danger. They had already faced annihilation and survived. If something worse was out there, they would face it too. 6 months after first contact with Villian Empire, Earth began its first exploratory mission beyond the solar system. A small fleet of human-designed ships built using architect manufacturing technology would travel to nearby star systems. Not to conquer or threaten, to explore, to make contact with other civilizations. To show the galaxy that humanity was more than just the crew of a warship. The fleet was diverse, crewed by volunteers from every nation. They carried messages of peace and scientific cooperation, but they also carried weapons, because the galaxy had proven itself dangerous. They were explorers and diplomats, but they were also warriors if necessary. Ambassador Santos addressed the fleet before their departure. You represent humanity to the galaxy. Show them who we are. Show them we are wreckable of more than just war. We did not choose to become what we are, but we can choose what we do with it. The fleet launched, jumping to faster than light travel using technology that humans hadn't possessed for months. They disappeared into the cosmic night, carrying humanity's hopes and dreams to the stars. On Earth, life continued. Cities were being rebuilt. The scars off battle were healing. But everything had changed. Humanity knew its true nature. They were not just another species trying to survive on one small world. They were the inheritors of technology that could reshape solar systems. They were the crew of Earth, a planet-scale warship left behind by an ancient civilization. The question now was, what humanity would become? Would they be conquerors like the Villian Empire? Would they be isolationisting behind their weapons? Or would they be something new, a species powerful enough to defend themselves, but wise enough to seek peace? General Rix watched Earth from the moon's observation deck. Thinking about that question, he was 67 years old and would die on this moon. His neural system too integrated to ever separate, but he did not regret his choice. He had given his life to protect humanity's future. Now it was up to the next generation to decide what that future would be. Sir, an operator reported, we are detecting unusual NG signatures in deep space. Multiple sources moving toward our system. Riss felt a chill. Identification. Unknown. Not Valrin. Not any species in our database. The energy patterns are strange, organic, like they are alive. Rick's accessed the sensor data directly through his neural link. The signatures were indeed unusual, massive, ancient. And they were approaching from the direction of the galactic core, where the architects had supposedly fought their ancient war. Send a priority alert to Earth and Mars, Rix ordered. Unknown contacts approaching, possibly hostile. Prepare defensive measures across the solar system. Architect installations began activating more fully. Systems that had remained dormant even during the Veilran battle came online. Earth's deepest weapons held in reserve prepared to deploy. Mars adjusted its orbit positioning for combat. Jupiter's moons powered up their manufacturing facilities, beginning to produce ships at rates humanity had not yet attempted. The Architect Network was recognizing a specific threat, and it was responding with the full power of its design. Humanity gathered on their planet's ship, watching the darkness of space with newly opened eyes. They had faced one empire and survived. Now something else was coming. Something that had fought the architects themselves millions of years ago. Whatever happened next, humanity would face it as they had learned to face all challenges. Together as one species, as the crew of Earth, the blue planet turned in space, surrounded by its fleet of moons and sister planets. A network of world ships waiting for whatever came from the deep. Weapons that could crack continents stood ready. Shields that could deflect starfire were charged. Millions of operators worldwide amended their neural links, ready to defend their home. Humanity had not asked to become warriors on a galactic scale. They had not chosen to inherit weapons that could reshape solar systems. But the galaxy had found them. had attacked them and had learned a crucial lesson. Earth was not a prize to be taken. It was a warship to be feared, and its crew, once divided and primitive, had become something the galaxy had not seen in millions of years. They had become the rightful heirs of the architects, and the galaxy would never be the